Why do we even put CPTSD with BPD, borderline personality disorder, with complex PTSD, when everybody in the world knows PTSD? Everyone's heard of it. So, complex CPTSD would go in that category, but people are always confusing borderlines with people with CPTSD. And in fact, I think that people with CPTSD think of themselves as higher functioning borderlines, or kind of the elite version of a borderline. But maybe I'm wrong about that. And honestly, that's kind of how I was thinking of CPTSD, as higher functioning borderlines. But who came up with this groovy idea to separate the two and make them both a thing? But alas, it has happened and they are both a thing. So I want to talk about the two of them and how I want to help you understand so you won't be confused like I've been confused. So here's another step in the progress. I understand that they are two different things. In order to have CPTSD, you had to have experienced some type of ongoing trauma, meaning like sexual abuse, or you lived in a country that was war torn, or I don't even want to say, but there was just a lot of trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma. And so it went on for a prolonged period of time. So if you are working with somebody and you think they are a borderline, you need to ask them, did you experience ongoing pervasive abuse? If they did, then the likelihood is that they are CPTSD, not a borderline. And when you think of PTSD, it's like a one time thing. Like somebody in the military goes to war and they have a traumatic experience. These both, CPTSD and PTSD, they can have flashbacks. They can have memories that come up and scare them. They can be freaked out by a noise or a reminder of the trauma. So it's trauma. PTSD is more like a kind of a one trauma thing. CPTSD is like an ongoing abusive type trauma. Borderline personality disorder, I think of it as neglect. Let's just go there to keep it simple. Got a story to help you to frame borderlines or BPD. So I remember this lady, a young lady, had a baby, and she was always bouncing her baby off to lots of different people. People at church, neighbors, relatives of the boyfriend, her relatives. And this baby did not know these people. The godmother, these people did not know this baby. The baby did not know them very well. So the baby would cry all night, because I remember knowing somebody who, well, whatever. So the baby is getting handed to these people over and over again, who the baby is not bonded to. This baby doesn't know, but the mom wants to party. She wants to spend time with her boyfriend, and she kind of doesn't care who gets her baby. Just take them. So how much time does the baby spend bonding with her? Not much. The baby is always with somebody different, whoever will take this baby. So when you do that, you're missing that critical period of time for bonding. I would even say if you have been a stay-at-home mom with your baby and they're under the age of 3 and you decide you're going to put them in daycare, you need to spend time in that daycare with your baby so that they can adjust to these new people and they can feel comfortable with these people, so that it doesn't feel like you are disappearing. Because at the core of borderline personality disorder is abandonment. Why? Look at that baby. Where is my mommy? When is she coming back? Who are these people? I don't trust anybody because my mom is always sending me off to any and everybody. Humans are not built that way. Humans are built to bond with a caregiver. And when you don't do that, you can create abandonment issues that are very difficult to heal and cure from. It is a major, terrible thing to do to a human being. So, borderlines have been abandoned. Someone with CPTSD has had some type of trauma that has been ongoing, probably in their childhood, maybe not necessarily, but more than likely abuse that has been persistent, consistent, and ongoing. So it's going to change the trajectory of how you feel. So in that case, can BPD or CPTSD be a higher functioning BPD? It's kind of a yes and an absolute no. They are two totally different things. However, the reason why people get them mixed up is because they can act similarly to a certain extent. And I want to try to help you understand how I'm understanding in this moment because it could change later. And if I'm wrong, tell me. I know a guy who was from a place where he felt like he experienced a lot of abuse in that particular country because of the way the systems are. So this guy is CPTSD. I really believe he is, even though he gives me the feeling of borderline personality disorder. I really think he leans more towards CPTSD because he has said, I feel like I have PTSD because he had a persistent trauma for many, many, many years. So he often walks around with noise canceling headphones. He often has a Rubik's Cube that he plays with because it keeps him going. There have been some situations where he has told me, I cannot do this today. I cannot go to that event. I can't handle it. Or if we switch something around, he doesn't handle it very well. He starts to act out. He will miss days at work. Any type of change, even though he appears to be kind of flexible, but he's got his systems in place. And when you change those systems, it throws him off because now he's not in his safe place that he has built around himself, and he begins to act out, and he can become very difficult. Like you're telling him to do one thing and he does the opposite. He starts to have a really hot temper. He becomes argumentative. He goes into rages. He can act a fool. And it doesn't make sense to most people. Like, why are you attacking me? What did I do? But his rhythm has been thrown off. BPD and CPTSD can both have problems with regulating their emotions when triggered. So they can have a hot temper and have a hard time calming their temper down when they are triggered. So you're shifting their environment and they may come after you for it. Does that make sense to anybody? Borderline, on the other hand, they are going to lead with abandonment. And in this same organization that I'm thinking of, there is a lady that I'm thinking of who I think is a borderline. Anytime I am talking to this guy that she feels very attached to, she is going to interrupt us every single time. Doesn't matter how rude it appears, how disrespectful I feel that it is, she is going to interrupt us every single time because this is her favorite person. She doesn't want to lose him. She feels threatened Like I could take her person away from her and she can't handle it. I can remember when someone left the organization, she could not stop crying. And while other people were sad, they did not have the same type of reaction that she was having, where it was she needed to be held, to be consoled. She just couldn't handle it, even though this person was still going to be coming around sometimes. But for them, it was like abandonment. Like this person is leaving me and I can't handle it. With CPTSD, they don't seem to be triggered by abandonment in that way. Not like that. Like they seem to be more independent, more, and it's not that they won't, they could have kind of a safe person that they go to as well, but there's not that fear that you're going to leave me. That is not what they're leading with. The CPTSD person is leading with anxiety. Like I feel anxious. I need to stay busy because I don't want to think. I don't want to be left with my thoughts because I can't handle it. It's too much. So yeah, so that's the difference, but they can both kind of give you the same sort of feeling. Sometimes you do have to walk on eggshells with both of them because you don't want to trigger their anger, and sometimes you don't know what causes that anger, and it's not a typical response by most people. Everybody can get angry, but this is a different sort of state. And I think both people can be quite intriguing. So, does that make sense? And I am going to explain to you a little bit more in depth so that you can understand why CPTSD is really not a high functioning borderline personality disorder, although they may seem to be. A couple other quick things. CPTSD will probably be able to describe themselves quite easily. Not that we can't have any internal confusion. So borderline is going to have a difficulty telling you who they are because not bonding with a caregiver also left them without a quote unquote self, an identity. So they don't know who they are. They can morph into whoever they're around. There is issues with that. So when you say describe my personality, your personality, they are gonna struggle with that. They're not gonna be able to tell you usually, whereas a CPTSD can tell you a few things about who they are and describe characteristics of themselves when asked directly. They can both have sort of a self-hatred type thing. Maybe CPTSD might struggle with that more in a different sense because they do have a sense of self and identity, and I know who I am. I just don't like myself very much. So they may struggle with self-esteem issues. You would too if you had been through a lot of trauma. So they want to push the trauma away. One thing that I would want to do if as a therapist would be to see how they interact with the people that are closest to them, because sometimes a quiet borderline may appear confident and to know who they are and to have all of this, things going, whatever, like that are great. But then when they are with a very close family member, they may act out when that family member is trying to leave, or like when holidays come up, they may act out because I don't want you to leave, so I'm starting a fight with you. You may not see that with everyone. They may appear to be very independent and like, I don't care if all these people are leaving and going home and I'm leaving too, because they may not show that side to everyone. It could be just someone that they are very attached to. Complex PTSD and borderline personality disorder can look similar, especially around emotion swings, self-image struggles, and relationship pain, but they're not the same thing. Calling CPTSD a high-functioning borderline both oversimplifies and risks missing the specific treatment each needs. Here's a quick breakdown. Number 1, core definitions. CPTSD arises from prolonged repeated trauma, childhood abuse, or captivity. Main features. Classic PTSD symptoms would be like flashbacks, hypervigilance, avoidance, plus disturbances in self-organization, persistent shame, guilt, chronic emotional dysregulation, and interpersonal difficulties. BPD is a personality disorder marked by a pervasive pattern of instability in emotions, self-image, and interpersonal relationships, often with impulsivity and frantic fears of abandonment. 2. Shared features. Emotion dysregulation. They both have that. Sudden intense mood swings and difficulty soothing yourself, unstable relationships, idealizing, then devaluing others, fear of rejection or abandonment. So they devalue people because they don't fully trust people. Self-image issues, feeling empty, shame, or chronic self-criticism. Dissociation or spacing out under stress. 3. Key differences. Etiology. CPTSD's roots are almost always traumatic. BPD may involve trauma, but also genetic temperament, attachment patterns, and broader personality development. Symptom profile. CPTSD, prominent re-experiencing flashbacks, avoidance of reminders, a profound sense of threat, plus persistent negative self-views. BPD has impulsive behaviors like substance abuse or self-harm, intense but shifting identity and relationship swings, often driven by abandonment anxiety. Treatment focus. CPTSD uses phased trauma therapy. So it's stabilization, processing, and integration. Somatic approaches, EMDR, sensory motor work. BPD, however, has a completely different way of treating it, which is why you need to get it right. So even though they may look alike, you have to treat them differently, meaning use therapy in a different manner in order to help them heal and make progress. So BPD, dialectical behavioral therapy, which is DBT, mentalization-based therapy, MBT, and transference-focused psychotherapy. So number 4, what high-functioning borderline misses? So the phrase typically implies someone with BPD traits who keeps it together externally, but they still have the core BPD patterns. A person with C-PTSD might appear more regulated socially, yet still be haunted by trauma, shame, or persistent hypervigilance in ways that aren't captured by the BPD criteria. So 5, why diagnostic clarity matters. You want the right roadmap. DBT is gold for BPD. CPTSD often needs a multi-phase trauma protocol with heavy emphasis on safety, stabilization, then memory processing. Misdiagnosis can mean ineffective therapy, slower progress, and renewed frustration. So bottom line, CPTSD isn't simply a high-functioning form of BPD. They overlap, yes, but each has distinct roots and a distinct clinical picture. If you suspect either or both, the best step is a trauma-informed assessment by a clinician who can tailor treatment to your needs. So if you're like me, you're fascinated with this. Some people might be offended by fascination, but fascination gets you in the door. It gets you curious. It gets you helping. It gets you healing. It gets you wanting to figure out, okay, how can we eradicate both of these so that people can live a peaceful and happy life. And that is the goal. So, hey, beautiful people, thanks for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments and what topics you want me to explore next. Your feedback means so much to me. Let's keep this adventure going. Don't break up with me. Be sure to subscribe and like the video. Check out my books on Amazon for insights on enhancing your love life, navigating narcissistic personalities, and exploring the 16 Myers-Briggs personality types. Links are in the description. You're amazing, and I can't wait to see you on the next video.